Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining. My name is Zach Posner. I'm a co-founder and managing partner at the LegalTech Fund. Thrilled to have one of our portfolio companies here with us today, Tom from Scribe. Tom, thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes.
Hey, my pleasure, Zach. I mean, what a treat to get to hang out with you on a, what is this, Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah,
This is great. This is awesome.
If you consider it a treat, I'll take that.
Yeah, no, this is great.
On that note, before we dive into some of the work related stuff and some of the Scribe stuff that I'm excited to hear your story again, but would love to hit some personal stuff if you don't mind.
Sure, sure.
We've asked this to all the entrepreneurs that we've interviewed. A fun one or a fun couple. If you weren't in legal tech right now, what other industry or role do you think you'd be passionate about?
You know, that's a great one. I have a real passion for coaching, business coaching, and spent probably 20 years in an organization here in the Austin area coaching probably 75 to 100 different business owners. So I think I would be all day, every day, talking to business owners, walking through challenges, because I just can't get enough of that.
So it's funny because we get to do some of that just like in our roles, but the frustrating part is like you can get close to something, but you can never get that close because you know what I mean.
It really is amazing. I always used to joke around, like, with my business owners, like I get to ride in on a white horse and tell you what you're doing wrong, and then I ride out.
Well,
it's a beautiful thing.
It is. I like to say, hey, look, you should listen to everything I'm saying, but only half of it's right. You got to figure out which half is right.
Yeah. No, that's right.
And do your own thing. Is there a little known fact or unknown fact about you? I know we've gotten to know each other over the last couple of years, but even something I'd say, wow, did not realize that.
That's a tough one, Zach. I mean, I think that what I would probably say is that I spent the early part of my life in what has now become like X Games. So I have a real passion for skateboarding, motocross, surfing, all those sort of things. Is really, in my mind, those are the best sports out there. I surfed, I skateboarded, I rode motocross for a while. It's been a while since I've done those things, but that's probably a little known fact. Probably a lot of people wouldn't guess that.
That counts, and I would not have guessed that either.
The other thing I'll point out real quickly. There's an old game that was in bars and growing up called foosball. You probably remember the game foosball.
Yeah, of course.
I was a pretty solid foosball player back in the day.
So if we get foosball at our summit next year, you think you can?
I'm all in, man. You're gonna have a hard time getting me off the table.
Awesome. All right, last one, maybe related to some of those extreme games you were talking about or sports. But if you could be anywhere in the world right now, no restrictions, where would you go and why?
It'd have to be the beach. Kind of naturally drawn to water. As far as kind of exactly which beach, I'm not overly picky about that. Any beach is really a pretty good beach. So I think it'd be a coastal town, kind of remote. I love the Destin area, the 30A. Love that area.
All right. Well, if you insist the next board meeting is down there, I'm in. All right. So let's shift to Scribe if that works for you. And I have a series of questions, but maybe it would make sense with you just starting to frame Scribe, what it is, how it came to be, and then I can dive in with lots of fun stuff. Yeah.
Well, so Scribe, I mean, I think the easiest way to kind of frame that one up, Zach, is kind of the genesis around it all. I bought a court reporting firm back in 2007, ran it for about 7 years and sold it. And back in that time, I got to see from the business side of what it looks like to deal with litigators in capture testimony and court reporters, that whole business model. Learned enough about it to know I didn't want to own that business model long term. It just was screaming for disruption. And I met Carl Seelbach back in those days, probably about 10 years ago. And Carl was coming from the other direction, being a litigator. And so Carl and I kind of hit it off on the topic of, hey, this business model of taking depositions is just broken. And so what if we think it's broken, then we started challenging ourselves, well, what would the modern version look like? And so, fast forward a number of years, COVID comes around, everything goes from in-person to virtual. And so essentially the net of it all is the business of taking depositions changed with COVID, and the business model didn't. And so what we've built with Scribe is the business model evolving to more of a modern day app optimized for remote.
And maybe talk through some of the product functionality, because by the way, you just simplified a lot there. You said the business changed during COVID, but the business model did not.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe walk me through some of the differentiating features or how you think about that.
Well, so the differentiating features, so imagine this being a deposition, where you and I are opposing counsel and we have another person on the call, and all of a sudden somebody pops in, a stenographer pops into the call. So there's another window with a stenographer with a funny machine called a stenographic machine that was the technology was invented in the late 1800s. And then imagine somebody else popping onto the call that's a videographer whose sole purpose is to push record on this call and then charge you $150 an hour, or whatever the charges are. It's pretty absurd. And so, all we are doing is really allowing technology to do its thing in a conversation like the rest of the world's doing. Yeah. And remove the court reporters and the videographers and just try to modernize the whole process.
So I'm assuming the first thing people say is, "Oh, wow, it's not accurate." But what would you actually say to that? How's the accuracy compared to a human?
I mean, so if 99.9% is not accurate enough, then I guess we have an issue, because for a court reporter to pass there and get their certification, they have to be 95% or better in their accuracy. Our final legally formatted transcript is in the 99+% range. It's actually better.
Yeah, it's not 99%.
It's not that we're not as good. We're actually better. We're cheaper. We're faster. We're better. I mean, this is kind of like how many? You don't take taxis very often anymore, do you?
Do you say?
Do you take taxis very often? Exactly. Often. Like it's just that big of a jump. Yeah. Everybody, Uber and Lyft is kind of, everybody doesn't even think about it now, but it wasn't that long ago that taxis kind of ruled the world. It's a very similar sort of shift.
And you guys built on top of existing platforms opposed to trying to reinvent a platform. And so I'm curious about that decision and how that's played out.
Well, we kind of went back and forth on what the right path was there. And we spent the better part of 6 months in discovery calls with attorneys, paralegals, and judges. And we talked about a lot of different things. One of them being kind of what they were used to around virtual platforms. Because the choice from our standpoint was spend a lot of money to recreate a virtual platform or stand on the shoulder of a giant like Zoom, who everybody understood. And so the more we got to talking and going through discovery, the more it became obvious that, it was it would have been a friction point had we built our own platform. And so we just went full steam ahead using Zoom or partnering with Zoom.
And, so you have amazing transcription, you have as high quality video. I mean, not many companies in the world invest more than Zoom in video.
Right.
Right. What is, maybe like paint a vision of what the future product looks like? I mean, there's all this talk of saying, how can we streamline lots of different things? How can we use analytics? How do we bring all these things together? And it seems like you guys are as well situated as anybody in the world to think about this type of stuff.
This is my favorite topic right now. Both Carl and I are really spending a lot of time, and it really kind of ties into vision and roadmap. So basically what we wanted to do in the initial phase of the company is prove the model, prove that, hey, we can have depositions, boot out a court reporter, boot out the videographer, have it optimized for remote, and attorneys like it and they come back. And we've proven that out. We've got 1.5 years, almost 2 years of traction to show it, and it's growing. The industry in general is very transactional. So if you're scheduling with one of the big court reporting firms, you schedule, you go to the event, they deliver what they're going to deliver, and you pay an invoice and you do it again. You go away and then you come back and do it again. Very singularly transaction focused. Our next real push is around kind of changing that dynamic. We want to, and we're leaning into this term, and I don't know if we've shared it with you, Zach, but it's a testimony intelligence platform is what we're envisioning. And what that looks like is, think of it in three pieces: the before deposition, during deposition, and post deposition. We want to optimize and allow for all content related to a case to be entered up into the Scribe application, so that the system is ready for it and can prepare attorneys for the event in the way of outlines and strategies and questioning. And then when the event actually transpires, have the Scribe application doing real-time coaching with the benefit of all that data, so the event is actually stronger. And then post-deposition, start to envision more of a bigger, broader data play. So not only can you look at testimony from one deposition, you start to look at an entire case, and you can start drawing information and use AI and data analytics against an entire case. And then even bigger than that, envision an entire organization. Think enterprise, whether it's Walmart or Nationwide, you name the company. The ability to use an entire database of testimony and do things and leverage information in ways they've not ever been able to do, lead to quicker settlements, faster case cycle times, and the sky's the limit on kind of the information you can get out of it.
Yeah, and I think there's like almost an access to justice issue, saying, A, you can help to bring down the cost. B, if you get things resolved quicker.
No doubt. That's been a centerpiece objective of ours from the get-go. Is access to justice is a real thing. I mean, we've had real live conversations with attorneys around this, and a lot of them around family law, where they're dealing with families that don't have a lot of money, that are trying to get, whether it's a, custody situation or you name it. There's not always a lot of finances behind those cases, and they don't get represented very well. When you start carving out costs the way we're carving out costs, it really allows access to justice in a bigger, broader way. And that's one of the big objectives we do have.
But, and I kind of took us down a different path, but going back to the vision of the three different, buckets and
Right.
where the tech can play a role, do we start seeing tidbits of that in the next 6 months, 2 years, 6 years? Like, I'm curious when the world starts, because
calendar year 2025, you'll start to see bits and pieces of it. I mean, I think realistically in the next 60 days, you'll start to see the first piece of that roll out.
That's all. That is awesome. And,
yeah.
And I'm assuming you believe there's ways that this kind of changes the way that law firms conduct business.
That's right. So the old expression, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Yeah.
We're going to break some eggs here.
That is awesome. And what's the receptivity been? What's the feedback been from clients? What are you hearing?
Glowing, raving, all the things you'd want to hear. The ones that are using us consistently, that have really embraced kind of the modern app side of it and all the features that we're bringing to the app, the Scribe application, really love it. The challenge we have is, when we roll out a new feature, there's a lot of attorneys out there that they don't know what they don't know. So you roll out a new feature around AI, they maybe don't have any experience using AI at all in that setting. And so, there's an onboarding, there's some education, there's some training that we're having to pay more attention to kind of on the backside of our business as we acquire new clients and, onboard them to the Scribe application.
Gotcha. And then how are you thinking about integrations with the different case management system, things along those lines? And I'm curious where you see the future going there. Do you think that people call you more directly? Do you think people integrate in through you, or all the above?
I think it's probably all of the above, Zach. I mean, we've seen, Filevine make a move here recently. I think that it's inevitable that more and more, from the software side of the world is going to start rolling up into some of these, some of the legal tech functions. Integration is a big part of our strategy. We've not executed to it yet, but it'll probably be a Q3 initiative for us. We definitely want to play into the case management applications. Those were so many eyeballs are on those screens all day, every day. So we're looking forward to that. It just hasn't, part of being, part of being a younger company, with a finite number of people on a dev team, we've got to build kind of in a priority path that makes the most sense, that serves both customers and serves revenue. And it's inevitable. Some of these things that, we think is going to be the next thing, something will come up and it'll be pushed. And integration has been one of those things that's gotten pushed a little further than it probably should have.
Maybe final question for you. Are there plans to go beyond depositions, or are you just in good shape right now where like you're going to be kept busy for the next couple of years?
Yeah. I think probably not beyond what I shared with you around this testimony intelligence platform concept. That's everything. There's plenty of market for us to do that. I think the way we build that and continue to leverage, Carl is the visionary who's a litigator who knows what litigators need and know the workflows. The more we kind of lean into what workflows look like and how we can match into that on the backside of our business is really kind of a big differentiator for us. I think, we get people to turn their heads because of the cost. You say it's 50% less or whatever the number is. It's a bigger number than that. But once they use us a little bit, it's the speed and everything on the back end in their legal workflows that we make a big impact on, that kind of changes the game.
That makes a ton of sense. If there's an ask for the people watching today, and there are most likely a lot more people that'll be watching in the future on YouTube and places like that, what would that ask be?
Well, especially if they're litigators. Hopefully there's just an army of litigators watching today. I think that everybody has seen different disruptive events, in their careers and in their lifetimes. We're at the very start of one. And Zach, you know it better than anybody. The entire legal tech space is going through a huge transformation. So I would just challenge people, give it a look. You don't have to have a court reporter in the room. The rules allow for you just to do it non-stenographically. What we're doing is really exciting, and it's going to change the game. And it really benefits not just the litigators, but their clients. Yeah. And so, I would just push it out that direction.
And Tom, if people want to reach out to you, how do they find you?
They can email me, tom@scribe.ai, and it's SKRIBE.ai.
That is awesome. I can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes with us. It's great to see you as always. And as always, we're honored to have you as part of the portfolio.
Hey, my pleasure, Zach. I'm disappointed it's only going 15 minutes.
Thanks, Tom. Talk soon.
All the best.